vehicle sitting in your garage, the one you trust for your daily commute and family trips, is a ticking financial time bomb. It's a harsh reality that many car owners are facing right now, often without any warning from the manufacturer. Across the automotive world, sales figures are plummeting for certain brands, iconic models are being unceremoniously discontinued, and loyal customers are being left stranded with vehicles that nobody in their right mind wants to buy. The depreciation on these cars isn't just a gentle slope, it's a cliff edge, and many are already in freefall. In this deep dive, we are pulling back the curtain on 13 specific car brands that are currently teetering on the brink of collapse. We'll expose the hidden scandals, the questionable engineering, and the disastrous business decisions that have led them to this point. More importantly, we'll explain precisely why owning one of their vehicles could be one of the worst financial mistakes you ever make, capable of wrecking your wallet and leaving you with nothing but a worthless piece of metal. If you're tired of the sugar-coated reviews and the dealership sales pitches, and you want the unvarnished truth about the automotive industry, then do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss the critical information we're about to share. Number 13. Buick. Let's begin with a name that has been a fixture on American roads for over a century, yet now finds itself in a precarious state of quasi-existence. Buick is technically alive, but it's surviving on life support, sustained by a market that barely remembers why it exists. For decades, the brand has been saddled with the reputation of being a car for the elderly, a comfortable but entirely uninspired choice for those in their twilight years. Despite numerous attempts at rebranding and modernization, the perception clings to it like a stubborn shadow, a ghost of its past that it cannot seem to exorcise. The fundamental problem is one of aspiration. Younger generations of buyers, the lifeblood of any long-term successful brand, simply do not see Buick as a symbol of success, style, or forward-thinking technology. To them, it remains the car their grandfather drove, a relic of a bygone era, not a vehicle that reflects their ambitions for the future. The sales data, while showing a slight pulse, paints a grim picture when examined in context. In 2024, Buick managed to sell 183,421 vehicles in the United States, which represented a modest 16% increase from the previous year. On the surface, growth is growth. However, when you place that number alongside the giants of the industry, its insignificance becomes starkly apparent. Toyota, for example, sold around 2.3 million vehicles in the same period, while Honda moved 1.3 million. Next to these titans, Buick's performance doesn't even register as a competitive effort. It feels more like a statistical footnote, an afterthought in the grand scheme of the automotive market. It isn't fighting for market share, it's fighting for mere relevance, and it appears to be a losing battle. The product lineup itself does little to inspire confidence or challenge this perception. In the American market, Buick's offerings have been whittled down to just 3 sport utility vehicles: the Encore GX, the Envision, and the Envista. Automotive critics and discerning consumers are quick to point out the obvious. These vehicles are, for all intents and purposes, glorified Chevrolets. They are built on the same platforms, use the same engines, and share a vast number of components with their more affordable siblings from General Motors. When your entire brand identity is built on being a premium or luxury light option, but your vehicles are transparently rebadged versions of mass-market cars, you lose all credibility. Buyers are not foolish. They can see that the extra money they are being asked to pay for a Buick badge is often just for some fancier trim and a quieter cabin, not for fundamentally better engineering or a more prestigious ownership experience. The brand's history is also littered with strategic blunders that have chipped away at its foundation. The infamous sponsorship deal with Tiger Woods was a desperate, multi-million-dollar attempt to inject a dose of cool and youthful energy into the brand's staid image. Instead of revitalizing Buick, the partnership became a financial black hole that ultimately ended in public embarrassment and failed to move the needle with its target demographic. Then, there are the persistent and deeply concerning mechanical issues. The Encore and Encore GX models, which are supposed to be the brand's bread-and-butter sellers, have been plagued by a litany of engine performance problems. Owners have reported everything from frustrating oil leaks and premature turbocharger failures to catastrophic engine failures, turning the promise of reliable transportation into a recurring nightmare of expensive repair bills. This is the ultimate red flag for any potential buyer. Buick is caught in an impossible position. It lacks the genuine luxury, performance, and brand cachet to compete with true premium brands brands like Lexus or Acura, yet its prices are too high to attract savvy, budget-conscious shoppers who can get a similarly equipped Chevrolet or Hyundai for less. For those who already own a Buick, the future looks bleak. They are facing a future of rapidly sinking resale values, a shrinking network of dedicated dealer support, and the ever-present looming risk that General Motors could simply decide to pull the plug on the brand in the United States, just as it did with Pontiac and Oldsmobile, leaving owners with an orphaned vehicle and a worthless investment. Number 12. Chrysler. The story of Chrysler's decline is not just a gradual slide, it is one of the most dramatic and precipitous collapses in modern automotive history. To understand the sheer scale of this downfall, one only needs to look at the numbers. In the year 2005, Chrysler was a powerhouse, selling more than 600,000 vehicles in the United States alone. It was a brand synonymous with American family transportation, known for its minivans and bold sedans. Fast forward to 2024, and that picture has changed into a scene of utter devastation. Sales have plummeted to under 125,000 units, representing an 80% collapse in less than 2 decades. This isn't a market correction, it's a brand in its death throes. A quick glance at their current product lineup reveals the extent of the crisis. The iconic 300 sedan, a car that once represented a bold and uniquely American take on the full-size sedan, is officially dead, with no replacement in sight. The Voyager minivan, a descendant of the vehicle that invented the segment, has been relegated to a fleet-only model, invisible to the average consumer. This leaves only one vehicle for the public to buy, the Pacifica minivan. While the Pacifica is a competent vehicle in its own right, it is now single-handedly shouldering the burden of an entire brand, and it is beginning to buckle under the pressure. Its sales slipped by a worrying 11% in 2024, contributing to a devastating 22.6% drop in the brand's overall volume. This decline is happening at a time when its key competitors, like the Toyota Sienna and the Kia Carnival, are experiencing a surge in popularity, stealing market share and leaving the Pacifica in their dust. There was a glimmer of hope on the horizon in the form of the Airflow EV, a sleek and futuristic electric vehicle that was promised as the herald of Chrysler's comeback. However, in a move that shocked the industry, the parent company, Stellantis, unceremoniously axed the entire project in mid-2024. The official reasons given were that the vehicle was too expensive to produce and that its technology was already considered outdated before it even hit the market. This decision left Chrysler with no new products in the pipeline and a future that looks terrifyingly empty. The company is, by all accounts, running on borrowed time. The leadership at Stellantis has done little to quell these fears. In fact, the CEO, Carlos Tavares, issued a stark warning in 2024, publicly stating that several of the company's 14 brands might not survive beyond the year 2026. Given its skeletal lineup and catastrophic sales collapse, Chrysler is undoubtedly at the top of that endangered list. The problems extend beyond just a lack of new models. The dealership network, the public face of the brand, is also in turmoil. High-profile cases have emerged of major dealers defaulting on massive loans, and in one particularly shocking case in Georgia, a dealership collapsed entirely following a massive fraud scandal that left customers without the cash they had paid or the titles to the vehicles they thought they had purchased. These incidents have shattered public trust at a grassroots level. Over the years, Chrysler has been battered by one crisis after another, from its involvement in the diesel emissions fraud scandal to UAW bribery schemes. This is on top of a litany of recalls for critical safety issues, including stalling engines, faulty suspensions, and widespread electrical failures. It is, therefore, no surprise that buyer confidence has been completely and utterly eroded. For anyone currently owning a Chrysler, the writing is on the wall. They are facing the grim reality of plummeting resale values, a dealer network that is shrinking by the day, and the very real possibility of driving a car that has been completely abandoned by the company that built it, turning their vehicle into an instant automotive orphan. Number 11. Infiniti. There was a time when the Infiniti badge represented a compelling and bold Japanese alternative in the luxury car market, a legitimate challenger to the dominance of German stalwarts like BMW and the refined reliability of Lexus. Today, however, that once bright star is fading rapidly into obscurity, becoming a mere shadow of its former self. The brand's decline is starkly illustrated by its sales performance. In 2024, Infiniti managed to move a meager 58,070 cars in the United States, a significant 10% drop from the already disappointing numbers of the previous year. To put this into a broader perspective, over the last decade, the brand's annual sales have been slashed by nearly half. This isn't a temporary downturn, it's a sustained and worrying trend of consumer apathy. This commercial collapse has had real-world consequences, forcing the brand to take drastic measures such as shutting down its dedicated, standalone showrooms. Many Infiniti dealerships are now being quietly folded into existing Nissan stores, a move that strips away any pretense of a premium, exclusive ownership experience. When your luxury car is being sold and serviced next to a Nissan Versa, the illusion of prestige is shattered. The product lineup is also being hollowed out at an alarming rate. The QX50 and QX55 crossovers are slated for discontinuation in 2025, and the Q50 sedan, once a sporty and attractive contender, has already been phased out. What remains is a thin and aging portfolio of vehicles that often feel overpriced for what they offer, struggling to compete with the newer, more technologically advanced models from rival brands. The brand's reputation has also been tarnished by a series of scandals and missteps. In 2018, Infiniti was caught in a scandal involving the inflation of its performance numbers, a deceit that damaged its credibility with automotive enthusiasts. Prior to that, the brand was hit with massive recalls affecting over 1.3 million vehicles for critical safety issues related to defective airbags and power steering failures. These blunders have not only cost the company millions, but have also destroyed buyer trust and sent resale values on a downward spiral. For current owners, this slow and steady decline translates into a host of problems. They are left with fewer choices for new vehicles, a shrinking network of dealers for service and support, and cars that are depreciating at a much faster rate than their competitors. The reliability of Infiniti vehicles, once a key selling point for Japanese luxury, now hovers at average or, in many cases, below average, according to major consumer surveys. The brand has been criticized for its reliance on older vehicle platforms and its widespread use of continuously variable transmissions, CVTs, which many drivers find uninspiring and which have a reputation for long-term reliability issues. The performance and refinement that once defined the brand have been eroded. In a desperate bid for a turnaround, Infiniti has promised a future centered on new electric vehicles and a redesigned Q50, supposedly set to arrive in 2027. However, these promises feel distant and uncertain. For now, this once proud name is running out of road. Owners are being left in a difficult position, holding the keys to cars that are becoming increasingly difficult to service and even more difficult to sell. A classic case of a premium brand losing its premium appeal. Number 10. Genesis. When Genesis first stormed onto the U.S. automotive scene, it did so with a tremendous amount of fanfare and a seemingly foolproof strategy. It offered vehicles with bold, eye-catching styling, interiors packed with advanced technology, and, most importantly, price tags that significantly undercut the established German giants like BMW and Mercedes-Benz. On paper, it appeared to be a masterstroke, the arrival of a new king in the world of affordable luxury. However, the brand quickly ran into a fundamental and perhaps insurmountable obstacle: the psychology of the luxury car buyer. People who purchase luxury vehicles are not primarily driven by the desire for a bargain. They are motivated by status, heritage, and the intangible allure of a prestigious badge. And to a significant portion of this demographic, Genesis, despite its impressive products, still feels like a Hyundai wearing a fancy suit. The perception that it is simply a gussied-up version of its mainstream parent company has been a persistent and damaging hurdle. The sales figures tell a story not of failure, but of a significant struggle to break into the top tier. In 2024, Genesis sold 75,003 cars in the U.S., a respectable increase from the 68,198 sold in 2023. However, when you place these numbers in the context of the luxury market, they are dwarfed by the competition. In the same year, BMW sold over 362,000 vehicles, Mercedes-Benz sold 282,000, and Lexus sold 319,000. Genesis isn't just being outsold, it's operating in a completely different league. It is still fighting a difficult battle for basic recognition, let alone market dominance. This struggle for prestige has a direct and painful consequence for owners, crushing resale value. The brand's reputation is further hampered by significant reliability concerns. In 2022, Genesis issued a massive recall for nearly 95,000 vehicles. The G80, GV60, and GV70 models were all recalled for a serious defect involving fuel pump failures that could cause the engine to stall while driving. In the high-stakes world of luxury automobiles, where brand trust is paramount, even a single major recall of this nature can inflict irreparable damage on a company's reputation. This lack of trust translates directly into faster depreciation, the potential for higher out-of-pocket repair costs once the warranty expires, and a shrinking pool of potential buyers when it comes time to sell. The ownership experience itself has also failed to live up to the brand's luxury promises. Genesis had pledged to create a network of exclusive, standalone showrooms to provide a bespoke, premium customer experience. However, the reality for most buyers is that they are still being directed to a corner of a Hyundai dealership lot to purchase and service their supposedly premium vehicle. Luxury customers expect to be treated with a red carpet level of service. They do not expect to be drinking complimentary coffee next to people haggling over the price of an Elantra. To make matters worse, the brand is facing significant economic headwinds. A 25% U.S. tariff on Korean imports forces prices upward, making it harder for Genesis to maintain its value proposition. Even the models that are assembled in the U.S. are heavily reliant on expensive parts imported from Korea, which keeps costs high. Meanwhile, the brand's big hope in the electric vehicle space, the GV60, has been met with a lukewarm reception. It has been criticized for being overpriced and underwhelming in its performance and range compared to its competitors, and it is already losing ground in a fiercely competitive EV market. Without a significant and rapid turnaround in both its public perception and its sales momentum, Genesis risks fading away as a failed experiment, leaving its early adopters stuck with beautifully designed cars that very few people want to own. Number 9. Lincoln. There are few names in the history of the American automobile that once carried as much weight and prestige as Lincoln. It was the preferred transportation of presidents, captains of industry, and celebrities, a symbol of ultimate American luxury and comfort. Today, however, that illustrious badge is tarnished and slipping, and for anyone considering purchasing one of their vehicles, the warning signs are becoming impossible to ignore. The most glaring issue begins with the fundamental expectation of a luxury car: reliability. And it is here that Lincoln has been profoundly failing its customers. A pervasive and expensive problem reported by owners across multiple models is the failure of the air suspension system. These systems, designed to provide a smooth, cloud-like ride, are prone to leaks, which cause the vehicle to sag and turn a comfortable cruiser into a jarring and unpleasant mess to drive. The powertrain issues are equally concerning. Owners frequently report a variety of engine problems, including persistent coolant and oil leaks, which can lead to dangerous overheating situations and a sudden loss of power. The transmissions have also become a source of major headaches. The MKZ sedan, for instance, is notorious for its harsh, clunky shifting, while the flagship Navigator SUV is known to suffer from gears that slip, a potentially dangerous and always expensive problem to rectify. Electrical faults add another layer of frustration to the ownership experience. These can range from minor annoyances like a glitchy infotainment system to major problems like complete wiring failures. Buyers who paid a premium for comfort and tranquility are instead getting a chaotic and unpredictable experience. The litany of common problems continues across the model range. Air conditioning failures are common, leaving drivers sweating in cars that were marketed as top-tier luxury vehicles. The MKX has known issues with its transfer case, a critical and costly component of the all-wheel drive system. Even the legendary town car, a symbol of reliability for decades, battled its own demons with spark plug and suspension faults in its later years. Looming over all of this is the shadow of the massive Takata airbag recall, a scandal that affected millions of vehicles worldwide and continues to damage the brand's reputation for safety and quality. Beyond the mechanical and electrical woes, there's a larger and perhaps more dangerous red flag: Lincoln's fading relevance in the modern car market. The brand has completely failed to capture the imagination of younger buyers. It is seen as an old-fashioned brand, and its attempts to appear modern have often come across as clumsy and inauthentic. As a result, rivals like BMW, Lexus, and even its crosstown competitor Cadillac have come to dominate the luxury space, while Lincoln's market share continues to shrink, leading to the closure of many of its dealerships. The independent arbiters of quality have also delivered a damning verdict. Consumer Reports, a highly respected and influential publication, ranks Lincoln a dismal dismal 24th overall among all car brands. Within the luxury segment, it ranks 12th, and its road test scores place it at 13th. These are mediocre, middle-of-the-pack numbers for a brand that once stood for the pinnacle of American automotive excellence. For owners, this confluence of poor reliability, fading prestige, and shrinking support creates a perfect storm. They are left with vehicles that have weaker resale value than their competitors, are likely to incur higher repair bills, and are becoming harder to service as dealerships disappear. Unless Lincoln can undertake a monumental effort to repair both its cars and its tarnished image, it risks becoming a complete relic of the past, taking its few remaining loyal drivers down with it into irrelevance. Number 8. Mitsubishi. The Mitsubishi brand once evoked images of rally-bred dominance and iconic street racing legends like the Lancer Evolution and the 3000 GT. It was a brand associated with performance, technology, and a certain rebellious spirit. Today, that legacy is a distant memory, and the company is engaged in a desperate fight for its very survival in markets like North America. The sales numbers paint a picture of a brand in retreat. In 2024, Mitsubishi sold just 19,143 vehicles in the U.S., a steep and worrying decline from its already modest sales figures in previous years. By early 2025, the situation deteriorated even further. A new U.S. tariff effectively froze the delivery of its vehicles, leaving cars stranded at ports and dealership lots empty, with no clear resolution in sight. This supply chain crisis left dealers with nothing new to sell and customers with no reason to visit a Mitsubishi showroom. The product lineup itself is shrinking at a dangerously fast pace, reflecting a company in full retreat. The Mirage, long known as one of the most budget-friendly cars available in America, has been discontinued. What remains is a skeletal offering consisting of the Outlander Sport, and the Eclipse Cross. None of these models are setting the sales charts on fire, and they compete in the most brutally competitive segments of the market. Even the recently redesigned Outlander, which was met with some initially positive reviews, has failed to meet the company's sales expectations, unable to make a significant dent against rivals like the Honda CR-V and Toyota RAV4. For owners, the brand's long and troubled history with quality and trust is a major source of concern. And this is not a recent problem. It's a pattern of behavior that has spanned decades. In 2016, the company was embroiled in a massive scandal when it admitted to systematically falsifying fuel economy data for over 600,000 of its vehicles in Japan. This deception led to government raids on its offices, the resignation of top executives, and a catastrophic loss in the company's value. Years before that, another major scandal emerged involving a decades-long cover-up of safety defects and recalls, which further destroyed the company's credibility with the public. These back-to-back disasters were so severe that they forced Nissan to step in and purchase a controlling stake in the company simply to keep it from going bankrupt. However, the problems are not just historical. On the road today, owners of modern Mitsubishi vehicles report a discouraging array of issues. Widespread transmission failures, particularly with their CVTs, are a common and expensive complaint. Other frequently reported problems include weak air conditioning systems, premature failure of suspension components, frustrating electrical faults, and even engines that simply refuse to start. The overall build quality is often described as hit or miss, with cheap-feeling interior materials and inconsistent panel gaps. The in-car technology feels dated compared to what is offered by Korean and even American competitors. The inevitable result of all this is a resale value that sinks like a stone. For any consumer who is considering a Mitsubishi because they believe it offers affordable and reliable transportation, the harsh reality is that this brand may end up draining their wallet through repairs and depreciation rather than saving them money. Number 7. Alfa Romeo. There is no denying the seductive appeal of an Alfa Romeo. These cars are automotive works of art, capable of turning heads and stirring the soul with their sleek, sensual lines, their agile, sporty handling, and the weight of a historic Italian badge that speaks of racing glory. Yet, behind this beautiful facade lies a brand that is sinking fast in the marketplace, and it is the owners who are left to pay the steep price for this flawed beauty. The verdict from independent quality assessors is nothing short short of brutal. For 2025, Consumer Reports ranked Alfa Romeo a shocking 27th overall among all car brands. Within the luxury category, it placed 13th, and in road tests, it came in 26th. These are not just poor rankings. They are firmly in the bottom tier of the entire industry. When a brand's reputation for reliability is this poor, the financial consequences are swift and severe. The resale value of its vehicles collapses. Cautious buyers shy away from them on the used car market, dealerships are reluctant to offer fair trade-in values, and the original owners are forced to absorb devastating financial losses. The problems that plague these cars are not minor annoyances. They are constant and often serious. Electrical failures are rampant, leading to a dashboard that frequently lights up with cryptic warning lights. The infotainment systems are known to be glitchy and prone to freezing or shutting down altogether. Some owners have even reported their vehicles suddenly losing all power while driving. The transmissions are often criticized for their rough and jerky shifting, detracting from the otherwise sporty driving experience. Oil leaks are a common complaint, and the premature wear of suspension components can quickly ruin the car's ride quality. These persistent issues result in a constant stream of high repair bills, which systematically drag down any confidence an owner might have in the brand. The interior, while stylish at first glance, often fails to live up to its luxury price tag upon closer inspection. Owners complain about the use of cheap-feeling plastics, fragile knobs and switches that break easily, and uneven panel gaps that speak to a lack of manufacturing precision. Instead of the finely crafted interior they were promised, buyers are often left with a sense of disappointment as their expensive Italian car begins to show signs of wear and tear far sooner than its German or Japanese rivals. The sales figures reveal the harsh reality of the brand's struggle. In the crucial U.S. market, models like the beautiful Giulia sedan and the sporty Stelvio SUV are only able to find buyers when they are accompanied by steep discounts and generous incentives. The dealership and service experience also frequently fails to meet the expectations of luxury car buyers. Many customers have described the service as inattentive and disorganized, leaving owners feeling frustrated and deeply worried about the long-term care and maintenance of their vehicles. The brand's parent company has also been mired in scandal. In 2019, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles paid billions in fines related to the Dieselgate emissions cheating scandal. More recently, in 2024, the brand suffered a public relations blunder when it was forced to change the name of its new Milano model to Junior, after the Italian government blocked the original name. Without a fundamental and comprehensive fix for its deep-seated reliability and quality control issues, Alfa Romeo risks becoming a niche brand known only for its style, leaving its owners stuck with beautiful but fast depreciating cars that are a constant source of frustration. Number 6. Maserati. The Maserati Trident was once a legendary symbol of Italian passion, performance, and exclusivity. It was a badge that promised a thrilling driving experience and an air of sophistication that few other brands could match. Today, however, that Trident is losing its shine, and the brand is sliding dangerously toward a complete collapse. The numbers are nothing short of catastrophic. In the first part of 2024, Maserati's global sales collapsed by a staggering 57%, plummeting from 26,600 vehicles to just 11,300. This is not a market slowdown. This is a brand in absolute freefall, a clear vote of no confidence from the global luxury car market. Models like the Levante, the Ghibli, and the Quattroporte, which were once objects of desire, now sit collecting dust in showrooms as potential buyers walk straight past them and head to Porsche, BMW, or Mercedes-Benz dealerships. The situation has become so dire that Stellantis, Maserati's parent company, has reportedly been forced to call in external consultants for the grim task of deciding the brand's ultimate fate. Should it be sold off, merged with another brand, or shut down entirely? The American market, which was supposed to be a jackpot for Maserati, has instead become a financial quagmire. Brutal import tariffs have added a 25% tax to the price of every car, making an already expensive vehicle nearly impossible to justify when compared to its rivals, which often offer superior technology, better performance, and higher quality for less money. In a desperate attempt to fight back, Maserati has been trying to lure customers with exclusive VIP experiences and bespoke customization options. However, these initiatives are like putting a small bandage on a gaping wound. failing to address the much larger and more fundamental problems that are lurking beneath the surface. The brand's crucial rollout of new electric vehicles has been delayed. Customer demand for its current aging lineup is weak, and some planned future models have been canceled altogether, leaving the product pipeline looking worryingly barren. For anyone who currently owns a Maserati, the risk is enormous. If Stellantis decides that the brand is no longer viable and pulls the plug, owners could be left with an orphaned luxury car. The availability of spare parts could dry up, making even simple repairs a nightmare. Resale value, which is already notoriously poor for the brand, would collapse completely overnight, and finding a qualified technician or a dealership willing to service the car could become nearly impossible. This isn't just a momentary stumble for the brand, it is a profound identity crisis. Maserati seems to have lost its way, unable to decide what it wants to be in the modern automotive landscape. If it doesn't find its footing, and fast, the legendary Trident won't just lose its shine, it could vanish from the roads entirely, a sad end for a once great name. Number 5. Jaguar. Jaguar was once the undisputed symbol of British automotive luxury, a brand synonymous with graceful design, powerful performance, and a certain undeniable charm. Today, that icon of British engineering is teetering on the very edge of collapse, a shadow of its former glorious self. The brand, long celebrated for its sleek sedans and roaring sports cars, has made the shocking decision to gut its entire lineup. In 2024, Jaguar announced it was pulling the plug on the XE and XF sedans, the F-Type sports car, the all-electric I-Pace, and the E-Pace crossover in the United States. This leaves only a single model, the F-Pace SUV, to hold the line as the company bets its entire future on a breathtakingly risky pivot to become an ultra-luxury, all-electric brand. This high-stakes gamble has created a massive and immediate product vacuum. The company has admitted that no new electric vehicles will arrive in its showrooms until late 2025 at the earliest, with 2 more models tentatively planned for 2026. Until then, Jaguar dealerships are essentially running on fumes, with nothing new to offer customers and an aging, solitary model to sell. The situation has been made exponentially worse by a disastrous and widely ridiculed rebranding effort. In a move that alienated its core base of loyal fans, the company replaced its iconic and beloved leaping cat logo with a bland, minimalist J inside a circle. The new brand slogan, Live Vivid, was launched with a series of confusing fashion-focused advertisements featuring vague and meaningless phrases like break molds. Longtime enthusiasts and automotive critics alike slammed the campaign as being completely tone-deaf, accusing the brand of chasing a fleeting image of trendy luxury while abandoning its rich heritage of engineering and performance. The impact on sales has been nothing short of a bloodbath. In April 2025, Jaguar registered a jaw-droppingly low 49 cars in all of Europe, a staggering 97.5% drop compared to the same month the previous year. The year-to-date sales for the brand have plunged by 75.1%. The global sales volume tells the same tragic story, having fallen from a respectable 180,833 units in 2018 to a paltry 26,862 between 2024 and 2025. This is not a decline. It is a complete and utter market rejection of the brand's new direction. Dealerships are left with empty lots and disillusioned staff. The resale values of existing Jaguar models are tanking as consumer confidence in the brand's future vanishes. The company has put all its chips on a single bet, that its upcoming range of ultra-expensive EVs will be a resounding success. If these new vehicles fail to land flawlessly and find a receptive audience, this radical reinvention will not be the brand's salvation. It will be the final act that speeds up its complete disappearance from the road, a cautionary tale of a legendary brand that lost its identity and its way. Number 4. Nissan. Nissan was a brand that once ruled the roads. It gave the world automotive icons like the legendary GTR, a supercar killer, the revolutionary 240Z, which redefined the sports car, and the Maxima, the 4-door sports car. These were vehicles that defined generations and built a loyal following. Today, that same brand is engaged in a desperate desperate fight for its life, plagued by internal chaos, strategic blunders, and a collapse of consumer trust. On the surface, the U.S. sales figures for 2024, which hit 865,938, might look solid. However, digging into the details reveals a much more troubling story. Sales of the Maxima have collapsed by over 90% as the model is phased out. The Altima, once a dominant player in the mid-size sedan market, is also on a downward slide. The bigger picture is even more alarming. Globally, Nissan is forecasting a staggering loss of $5.3 billion, with $3.5 billion of that loss coming directly from its U.S. operations alone. This is a company that is bleeding cash at an unsustainable rate. A failed merger attempt with rival Honda in 2024 represented a missed opportunity of colossal proportions. The union could have created the world's third-largest automaker, a true global powerhouse. Instead, the talks fell apart when Honda reportedly demanded controlling interest, a condition Nissan was unwilling to accept. Since that failure, Nissan has been scrambling to find new partners, holding talks with everyone from Stellantis to the electronics manufacturer Foxconn, but no firm deals have been signed. Meanwhile, the internal hemorrhaging continues. The company has announced plans to cut 9,000 jobs, plants are being shut down, and 2 electric vehicles that were planned for U.S. production have been abruptly canceled. This leaves Nissan with a glaring hole in its lineup, with no new hybrids, no plug-in hybrids, and a future product plan that looks dangerously unprepared for the electric transition. The cracks in Nissan's foundation began to show years ago with the explosive scandal surrounding its former CEO, Carlos Ghosn. In 2018, Ghosn was arrested in Japan on charges of hiding millions of dollars in income and using company funds as his personal bank. His subsequent movie-like escape from Japan in a large equipment box to Lebanon exposed a level of corporate chaos and a toxic internal culture from which the company has never fully recovered. As if that wasn't damaging enough, Nissan was later embroiled in its own emissions scandal, admitting that it had cheated on fuel economy and emissions tests in Japan. This series of self-inflicted wounds has caused consumer trust to collapse. Now, there are whispers from insiders and analysts who warn that without a miraculous turnaround or a successful partnership, the company may only have 12 to 14 months of cash reserves left to continue operating. For Nissan owners, this precarious situation means they are facing the triple threat of plummeting resale values, a potentially shaky service and parts network, and the unthinkable risk of driving a brand that might not even exist in a few years. Number 3. Lucid Motors. Lucid Motors burst onto the scene with a promise so bold it seemed destined to reshape the automotive landscape. It was marketed and widely hyped as the Tesla killer. Its debut vehicle, the sleek and stunning Air sedan, promised a game-changing 516 miles of electric range, opulent luxury interiors, and a level of advanced technology that would leave the established players in the dust. Eager buyers and enthusiastic investors lined up, believing they were witnessing the birth of the future of driving. But instead of rewriting automotive history, Lucid is now rewriting its own story into a desperate fight for survival. The financial reality of the company is terrifying. Lucid lost an eye-watering $2.7 billion in 2024, which followed a loss of over $3.1 billion the year before. Its stock price has collapsed by more than 95% from its peak, wiping out billions in investor wealth. The initial excitement has been replaced by widespread panic among investors and growing frustration among its customers. The company's very existence now rests almost entirely on the deep pockets of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, which holds a controlling stake and has been keeping the company afloat with massive cash infusions. Production has been nothing short of chaotic. At one point, nearly completed cars were sitting in lots, unfinished for want of basic components like carpet and glass, a symbol of the company's profound manufacturing struggles. Production targets have been repeatedly cut, delays have stacked up, and even the launch of its next crucial model, the Gravity SUV, has been plagued by uncertainty and doubt. In a sign of the escalating crisis, the CEO, Peter Rawlinson, stepped aside in early 2025, leaving an interim leader to try and calm the raging storm. Quality control problems have piled on top of the production woes. The flagship Air sedan was recalled for a dangerous defect involving high-voltage failures that could cause a sudden and complete loss of power while the vehicle was in motion. Federal regulators confirmed at least 10 instances of this terrifying failure. Owners have also reported a host of other issues, including buggy software, glitchy driver assist features, and infotainment systems that are prone to crashing. For a car that commands a six-figure price tag, the overall experience feels frustratingly half-baked. The company's troubles have also spilled over into the legal arena. Lawsuits have been filed accusing executives of inflating production forecasts to mislead investors and secure funding. Labor regulators have also investigated claims that workers were illegally fired for attempting to unionize. For anyone who has bought or is considering buying a Lucid, the danger is stark and simple. A brand that is this financially unstable, that is burning through cash at such an incredible rate, could collapse with very little warning. Such a collapse would leave its owners with a technologically advanced and beautiful electric car that is, for all practical purposes, nearly worthless overnight, with no warranty, no service, and no future. Number 2. Fisker. It was supposed to be the great automotive comeback story of the decade. After the dramatic failure of his first company in 2013, Henrik Fisker was back with a new venture, promising a bold and beautiful electric SUV, the Ocean, with futuristic styling and the promise of redemption. The hype was immense, but by June of 2024, that dream was dead once again. The company officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, marking a second and even more spectacular crash for the brand. At first, the Ocean SUV looked like it could be a genuine winner. Production, outsourced to the respected manufacturer Magna Steyr in Austria, began in late 2022, with the first U.S. deliveries rolling out in 2023. However, almost immediately, the dream began to unravel as severe problems with the vehicles surfaced. Owners reported a shocking array of dangerous and unacceptable flaws. Doors would become jammed, refusing to open. Hoods would suddenly fly open while the car was being driven at highway speeds. Most terrifyingly, numerous vehicles would experience a complete loss of power mid-drive, leaving them stranded in dangerous situations. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, was forced to launch multiple investigations, not for minor quirks, but for fundamental, dangerous flaws in the vehicle's design and software. By early 2024, the situation had become untenable. Production was halted completely. No more Ocean SUVs were built after March of that year. The company's financials revealed a grim picture. While it had managed to generate $273 million in sales, it was crushed by a staggering $1.3 billion in debt. A last-ditch effort to secure a rescue deal with a major automaker collapsed, and the company's stock, which had already fallen by 90% from its 2021 peak, flatlined, becoming effectively worthless. Then came the inevitable wave of lawsuits. Shareholders filed suits claiming they had been defrauded by the company. Regulators stepped in to investigate, and the SEC issued subpoenas related to financial mismanagement. The cars themselves told the story of a product rushed to market without proper validation. Owners were plagued by buggy software, key fobs that would randomly stop working, and a host of promised features like Apple CarPlay that were never delivered. Worst of all, as the company imploded, owners were left in an impossible situation, struggling to get their vehicles serviced or repaired, with some reporting that their expensive new SUVs were completely undrivable. As you can already guess, this collapse has hit the owners the hardest. They are left with no access to spare parts, no customer support, and vehicles with resale values that have sunk like a stone to the bottom of the ocean. Fisker didn't just fail as a company, it profoundly failed the very customers who put their faith and their money into its promise of a comeback. Number 1. Canoo. The future once looked incredibly bright for the electric vehicle startup Canoo. It had secured a prestigious contract with NASA to build astronaut transport vehicles. It had a massive order from Walmart for 4,500 electric delivery vans. A new factory was being built in Oklahoma, promising to hire 1,400 workers. Propelled by this string of high-profile announcements, investors piled in, and headlines confidently proclaimed that Canoo could be the next Tesla. But the hype and the company itself collapsed with breathtaking speed. By January 2025, the dream was over. Canoo filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which, unlike Chapter 11, signifies a complete liquidation of the company. All operations stopped cold. The final balance sheet was brutal and exposed the depth of the company's failure. It listed a mere $50,000 in assets against a mountain of more than $160 million in debt. The much-touted Oklahoma factory never delivered a single vehicle. The promised jobs never materialized as workers were sent home overnight. A critical government loan from the Department of Energy that the company was counting on never arrived. Deals to secure funding from foreign investors collapsed at the last minute. The cash simply dried up and the ambitious dream died. The fallout from the collapse quickly turned ugly and litigious. Former employees filed a class action lawsuit under the WARN Act, alleging that they had been laid off illegally without the required notice. A rival EV startup, Harbinger, accused Canoo of engaging in shady asset transfers, claiming that the CEO, Tony Aquila, had scooped up the assets from another failed automaker in a private deal without allowing for a proper and transparent bidding process. Critics described it as a fire sale conducted in the shadows, and for the customers and companies that had placed orders and believed in the vision, there's nothing left. There are no warranties to honor, no service centers to call, no spare parts to be found, and absolutely no resale value. The distinctively styled vans and trucks that once looked so futuristic are now nothing more than automotive ghosts, stranded, unsupported, and completely worthless. Canoo didn't just stumble or run into financial trouble, it vanished into thin air. Its story serves as the ultimate cautionary tale in the volatile world of EV startups. If a company with the backing and validation of giants like NASA and Walmart can disappear virtually overnight, it raises a terrifying question. What does that mean for the dozens of other fragile electric vehicle startups that are still out there, fighting to stay alive in a brutal and unforgiving market?